Hello from Beer Australia Reviews Live, and today we are going to be drinking and sampling and tasting two of the Margaret River craft beers. So these two today are there's Colonial Brewing Co. Southwest Sour and also the Margaret River Brown. Now, the two breweries are some of the new Margaret River brew pubs that have opened up in recent years. So there's about 12 of them these days around the Margaret River region, and both of these ones produce excellent beers. And in fact, any of the Margaret River brew pubs, if you want to have a nice beer, if you want to have a meal during the daytime, then pop into any one of them. So there's lots of them, things like Cheeky Monkey, Kawarum Up, there's lots more. But two of my favourites are definitely Colonial and Margaret River Brewhouse. Now, let me start with the Colonial first of all. Now, Colonial Brewing Co. Was established, it was one of the first of the new Margaret River microbreweries. It was established in 2004. It's a few miles just north of the town centre in a place called Bramley. So the fact that it's not within walking distance of the town centre of Margaret River means that all of these places, apart from one of them, they only open during the daytime. So you can go there and have a daytime meal and some beers, but they don't open up of an evening. The only one that does, I'll come to it later, is the Margaret River Brewhouse. Now, the Colonial Brewing Co. is expanding out at the present time. They also have a new production facility in Melbourne, so they're going up from like 3 million litres a year up to like 7 million litres a year. So it's getting to be a big concern. However, it is still just a locally owned and Australian owned business, so yeah, that bodes well. Okay, now this particular beer, let's move that out of the way for now. Okay, so it's Southwest Sour. Now, this one has the usual sort of malts that you'd expect: pale, wheat, Munich, and some standard sort of hops in Citric, Mosaic, and Kohatu. And it comes out at 4.6%. Now, I'm not really a big fan of sour beers, but I have tried this one once before, and I thought that's actually not too bad. So I'm willing to give it a try. Now, apparently, if you have a read of the website, the sourness, the bitterness, comes from naturally acidifying bacteria that grow in the farm. So there we go. And so this one also says it has hops from both hemispheres, providing a vibrant tropical aroma, but with low bitterness to keep this golden sour light and refreshing. Okay, so let's give it a try. Pale colour. Quite cloudy. Lots of fizz. So that's looking good. So as you can see, it's got lots of cloudiness in there. It's got it's sparkly bubbles. Really nice head on this one. Some of the beers I've had recently, the head has disappeared really quickly. Even some of the premium quality Margaret River beers have done that one. But it's always good. It just looks better when you have a beer and the head just stays in place on it. So let's give it a little bit of a go and see what it's like. So what are we looking for? Vibrant tropical aroma from the hops. Oh, it's got definite hints of tropical on this one. Yeah, there's definitely some tropical aromas in there. Can we get a pineapple, am I thinking, on this one? Possibly pineapple, possibly mango. Okay, let's give it a try. Oh, that's tangy. I think I've hit the sour bit already. So it hits you. It's like an acidic sweet when you first taste the thing. If you've ever had one of those extra sour sweets, that's the immediate taste that comes across. It's not giving me that much extra at the moment. It doesn't feel like a particularly a beer with particular depths to it. But let's give it some more. This is not my favourite style of beer, I've got to say. It's a little bit light in body on this one. It actually tastes a little bit watery. It doesn't have a lot of substance to it. I prefer a beer with more body to it, with a bit more thickness, maybe a little bit more aroma on that one as well. And let's see if I can get any more of these tropical fruit aromas. Low bitterness. So it is saying it's low bitterness to keep it light and refreshing. Okay. Lots of tang across the tongue. Has a bit of a drying, sherbety taste on the top of my mouth as well. So, I mean, it's an okay beer. You can taste that there's quality gone into the thing, as you get with all of the Margaret River beers. The water quality in Margaret River is really good, and every one of these microbreweries, including Colonial, they all have their own reservoir where they store their own rainwater in order to make the beers. So when they go to that much trouble to making a beer rather than just getting the stuff out the tap and filtering it, the beers always come out as a better quality. What I'm going to say though about this particular beer, Colonial Brewing Co. Southwest Sour, it's not my favourite style of a beer. Would I have one again? Yeah, I would. If I was actually at the place and it was a warm day and I was having a beer paddle, I would be more than happy to have this beer included in a beer paddle. So the Colonial Brewing Co. has your standard source of beer paddle. I think they do like about 6 beers. And it's always worthwhile going to one of these places, having a meal there rather than going to like any of the fancy restaurants at any of the really expensive wineries, because the meals, in my opinion, are not worth the money compared to the meals that you get at the brew pubs. It's a different sort of a meal, admittedly, but it's better value. And if you're having a beer, like your pub grub, it's really good. So I would definitely recommend a visit to Colonial. One of the other really good things about Colonial is that inside the pub they have a fridge where you can go in and you can buy yourself a mixed 6-pack of beers. So literally they have one set price. Doesn't matter whether you get the higher range ones or the lower range ones. You just grab 6 of them, any 6 that you want, and you pay the price of the bar and you take it home with you. And that's actually what I did. So I've got a couple of Colonial beers that I'll be reviewing the next week or so. And also, in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be actually hitting Margaret River as well, and I'll be coming back with some more, no doubt. So that's Colonial Brewing Co. Southwest Sour from the Margaret River region. I'm going to give it a... If you like sour beers, you would love this one. But if you're not a sour beer fan, you're not going to like a sour beer no matter what. So let's give it one last go. It doesn't have enough flavour for me. It's a bit too light, a bit too lacking in a few things. Okay, so that was the Colonial Brewing Co. Southwest Sour. Okay, next up, we have now the Margaret River Brewhouse Brown. So from the website, this is saying it's the Margaret River Brewhouse Brown. It's an English style brown ale. And so one of the things though I noticed about this one, it says it's 5% volume. If you get a brown ale in the UK, it's likely to be only like 2 or 3% in volume. I know they do stronger brown ales these days, but your traditional English brown ale is just lower in alcohol in this one. It's half the strength. Now, a little bit more about the Margaret River Brewhouse. Margaret River Brewhouse is actually one of my favourite venues in the entire region. So it's the only venue that is within walking distance of the Margaret River town centre itself. It's just across the river. You walk across the bridge, walk another couple of 100 yards further north, and the brew pub is right there. And because it's located close to the town centre, it's also the only one of these venues that's actually open of an evening until like about 9 p.m. or later. And the other good thing about Margaret River Brewhouse, they have the biggest tasting paddles that you will ever see. I think they have like 12 beers on there, so it is worthwhile just going to try that one. Margaret River Brewhouse as well, it's one of those venues where they will do you a mixed 4-pack. I just like having a mixed 4-pack rather than having to buy 4 of one type or 6 of one type, because I like to try different sorts of beers. Every different beer that's out there, I do really like to try. Now, a little bit more about Margaret River Brewhouse. It's a relatively new place. I think it opened in 2016. You can correct me on that one. And It's also a really good venue to go and have something to eat. Probably this time next week while I'm in Margaret River. So where are we now? It's like 20 to 7 on a Friday afternoon. I will likely be sitting in the Margaret River Brewhouse eating pizza and drinking a beer paddle. So some of their beers are actually really good. I had a lager recently from there that was excellent. Not so fussed about the red IPA. Red IPAs are not my thing, but the pale ale is really good, and I like the India pale ales as well. I'm not quite so sure about they do a few single hop IPAs, and I prefer a mix of hops because I like a more rounded flavour. Okay, now this is definitely though going to be the first time that I've tried the brown ale. Now I may have had it on the beer paddle when I was there last. I probably did because I had a bit of everything. But let's give it a try. Oh. Now that looks like an English brown ale, really does. Same sort of consistency and texture, although an English brown ale would likely be a bit more opaque. But it's looking good though, I like that. Okay. It looks like it's really malty, this thing, although it shouldn't be if it's like an English brown ale. Okay, but let's give it a try. Oh, that smells just like an English brown ale. That really does. That could be a bottle of Mann's. That could. Yeah, they've actually managed to do what it says on the tin. I think with this one, certainly smells like an English brown ale. What's it taste like? Ah, okay. If you gave me this one in the UK and didn't tell me that it came from Western Australia, oh, would I be able to spot it? It's a little bit sharper than an English brown ale. It has a little bit less smoothness, and the English brown ales as well. They are, even though the Margaret River region has good quality water, I would still rather have a the same beer that was made in the UK in a soft water region. If this was made in Burton upon Trent, this would be just a better beer overall, just because the water is just perfect for this style of beer. Now, the other thing I noticed on the website on this one, so it's got a little bit about the malts: Maris Otter, Crystal, chocolate malts, which is where it gets the dark colour from, and roast barley. Obviously, that adds the dark colour. And the hops on this one: Northern Brewer and Fuggles hops. Now, Fuggles is the classic English hop that goes into English real ale. It's probably not a real ale if it hasn't got a Fuggles in it, to be honest. But let's give this one another little go. Doesn't have the strongest of aromas. It's quite a light style, and it's quite a cooling style as well, I noticed. It's retained its head. The fizz has gone a little bit, doesn't have as much sparkle as it did at the start. It's a little bit light. It's got some bitterness on there. It's got a little bit of sideways sort of grapefruit on there. It's not an intensely bitter. It's sort of a medium-bodied bitterness on this one. Quite easy drinking as well because it's really smooth. It's got that cold water sort of a taste to it. Some beers, when they go on your tongue, they cool your tongue no matter what the temperature of the beer is. That's how this one is coming across. The aromas, it does smell just like an English brown ale. So they've got the aromas spot on, Mr. Brewhouse. I think actually they've done the job on this one. They've obviously gone out with the intention of making an English style brown ale. I think they've succeeded. It still has a little bit of the it's always going to have the Australian beer taste. There's nothing you can do about it. It's made in Australia. It's going to have that sort of a flavour. Um, so it's not. I would still prefer an English brown ale, especially if you go into any of the real ale pubs in the UK and they've got the cask conditioned beers which are still alive whilst they're in the keg, and they pump them out so they're not artificially pumped up with carbon dioxide like your keg beers are. If you have one of those beers, that will be higher quality. Also, those sorts of beers, they don't travel far, so you can't actually get a real ale in Australia because the real ale would have to be made in England, and you just simply cannot transport it over from England to Australia. So this is why we ended up with the India Pale Ales a couple of hundred years ago, because they were trying to transport beers from England to India, and they couldn't transport the exact same beers, so they had to increase the alcohol by adding more malt in, increase the amount of hops for its preservative value, and they changed the pale ale to an India Pale Ale. So you simply can't export that style of beer from England to Australia. But though, they've actually done a really good job on this one. I'm liking this one. I'm preferring this one to the Colonial Sour. Okay, let's give it another go. See what else we can find. That feels like it's in. I could be in a pub in England having a real ale. From the smell, not from the taste though. Okay, so that's two beers that we've tried from the Margaret River region. I really like the Margaret River region beers overall. It's a few hours drive south of Perth in Western Australia, and the climate changes completely from where we are in Perth to the Margaret River region. Perth is not really a place where you can make beer because it's a Mediterranean type of a climate, but it's a hot Mediterranean climate. Also, the water quality in Perth itself is not so good because it seeps through the limestone and it becomes really hard. So that all of the microbreweries around the Perth region, they all have to treat the hard water. There are a couple of them that don't treat the water at all and they're undrinkable. But the good thing about the Margaret River beers is they need to do. They can get away with treating the water less because the water is just fresher. They collect it from the rural farmlands around the breweries. It collects into their own reservoirs, and it's not too harsh a water. It's still it's still a little bit hard water though. When I taste the water in Margaret River that comes out of the tap, I can still taste it a little bit. Whereas in the places in the UK, such as Northwest England, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, when you taste the water, there's nothing in there. But the water, when it comes off the tap, sparkles, and that sort of water just makes for a better quality beer. So even if you go to Tasmania, the water quality is even better than Margaret River, but it still isn't as good as in the north of the northern parts of England and Scotland and Wales. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Okay, so we've tried the Colonial Southwest Sour. It's okay. I've tried a few of them recently, and I thought it's changed my mind a little bit on the sours. I'm not a big sour beer drinker because I prefer just a straight up beer. Make the beer without adding any of these extra flavours in just for the fun of it. But the Colonial Southwest Sour, it's quite good. I'd be happy to have one of them again. And then onto the Margaret River Brewhouse Brown, English style brown ale. It's okay. It's good. They've captured the smell. They've captured the smell perfectly. It's only the fact that it's not made from the same ingredients that an English brown ale would be made from. They might have the same varieties of barley malt and hops and things, but they come from a different region. And to be honest, when you're making beer, it has to be made in a temperate region, and you have to use the local ingredients, and it has to be grown there. That's the best style of beers. So that's why I do prefer beers from England, Belgium, Germany. That sort of cool temperate climate is just the best place for making beer. But saying that though, I can recommend all of the beers that come from Colonial and all of the beers that come from Margaret River Brewhouse. So, okay, not quite sure how many are tuning in. Yeah, we've got a few here. Yep. But, yeah, try them both. Try Margaret River beers, all of them. And, yeah, thanks for watching.